BJ Nix, are you here?
Present.
Spoonie, Timothy Spoonie.
Present, sir.
Margaret and Mary. Do we have a Margaret and Mary?
Yes.
Cool.
And the margaritas.
All right. Class here. We're ready. Let's go.
Yes, let's go.
Okay.
This is the time to line up behind your team, to support your team, have faith in that team.
It's peaks and valleys. It can't always be good. And as I always tell people, you're never as good as you think you are, and you're never as bad as you think you are. But when we do know about
house call, Trevon Diggs, pick six. It's coming, they see it, knocked away. Oh, Gregory! Hurts in trouble. 3 Cowboys wrap him up, make it 4. Micah Parsons is unblockable.
What's up?
You on mute.
Come on, get it together, man. Get it together,
You on mute, You on mute.
I'm on mute.
No, Pio.
There we go. All right, we are ready. What's up, guys? This is why Nix is usually the host and doesn't leave me to do this stuff. So, anyways, I hope everybody's having a great week. It is Wednesday. We are 4 days away from the first Cowboys football game of the season, and I'm really excited about that. So, first off, I want to give some quick shout-outs to the people around here. Spoonie, how's your week going so far?
So far, so good. I'm excited. I cannot wait for Sunday night. Cannot wait.
That's good. Mary, how about you? How's your week going?
It's good, and football's back in less than 24 hours, so I'm excited.
Yes, exactly. And we got our guy Jay Tuck. Shout out to CFO Sports in the building. Tuck, how's your week going so far?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Man, that video got my blood boiling, man. I'm just ready to go. I'm ready to go now, y'all. I'm about to fly out to Dallas here not tomorrow morning, Friday morning. I know we all gonna be in the building. I'm just ready. I'm done talking, man. I'm done talking. I'm ready to get to football, man. So couldn't be more excited. And before we start, I gotta give a huge shout out to our girl Aisha in the chat, man. Doing incredible things.
Yes.
This I am extremely proud of you, and I'm not gonna block you.
Yes. Yeah, big shout out to Aisha. If you guys haven't had a chance, she is now on Dallas Cowboys. She's with the mothership. She has a show every Monday through Friday. They go live at 3 p.m., I believe, 4 p.m. Central, or 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern time. And she's on with Jane Slater, Kelsey Charles, and our guy Jess Navarra. So definitely check them out if you have not had a chance to do so. It is a really, really good show. Want to give a quick introduction to a close personal friend of mine who you may see on the screen. His name is Forrest Conoly. He is an FSU legend. This guy was a starter for FSU. He played there from 1991 through 1995. So he is a national championship ring guy. Played under Bobby Bowden, was teammates with Charlie Ward, was teammates with Danny Cannell, Peter Warwick, Peter Boulware, Derek Brooks, guys like that. So this guy is a legit guy. He was an offensive tackle, 6'7", 325 pounds, give or take. So big mammoth guy and a blindside protector for FSU. He has since joined ESPN as a college game day analyst. He announces games. He joined them in 2012 and just recently last week did the Miami Hurricanes versus Bethune-Cookman game. So if you watch any ACC network, if you watch any of the MAC, really any college football games throughout the course of the season, there's a good chance you have heard this guy's voice and maybe even seen him on TV. He's that guy. So really quickly, I want to throw a little nugget in there too, because we always talk about stacking those infinity stones. We want to get the infinity gauntlet as you acquire roster pieces to build up the talent on your team. Forrest is an official member of the MCU. So if you've watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier, there's a scene where they have a bartender. He has multiple speaking lines, so he's officially in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He is an ESPN football guy. He's a good friend. And importantly for this show, he is a huge Bucs fan. So I thought it would be appropriate to invite him to this show to chat with us, answer some questions about how the Bucs are doing, talk about his Noles a little bit since they just came off of a huge, exciting win last weekend, and just get a feel for what the enemy or the opponent this week is feeling. So without any further ado, Forrest, how are you doing this week?
Doing good, man. Doing good. I appreciate that that intro, man. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wow, you make me feel special, man. How's everybody doing, man?
Yeah.
Great to be here with you guys.
Just have to roll out the red carpet for you anytime you join the show. So I'm really excited to have him on. So chat, if you guys have a Bucs related question or an FSU question and you want to ask Forrest while he's on with us, definitely do that. Forrest, like myself, is a dad. He has some small children, and I know he has to work tomorrow. So we're going to try not to keep him too late, but definitely going to get into some Bucs content with him. So, Forrest, what is the state of the union for the Tampa Bay Bucs? Obviously, you have Tom Brady back from his quick little 11-day hiatus. He's back in action. There's been reports on Godwin taking the knee brace off and practicing in a limited capacity. How are the Bucs fan base feeling about the team as you guys enter the 2022 campaign?
Well, I think they feel pretty good. I mean, when you can get a Tom Brady back, of course, you're going to feel real good about your chances. The injuries have taken its toll across the offensive line, but that's why you play the game. That's why you have backups. That's why you have practice squad players, and that's why you prepare, your team to go out and battle. So I think the team is hungry to get back out there. They feel like there's some leftover business from last season, the way that they lost to the Rams in the playoffs. They felt like that's a game they should have won, and they didn't play their best game. So you go into an offseason where you lose a Tom Brady, you're thinking about rebuilding, you lose your head coach, but then you get Tom Brady back. Of course, you lost some pieces that have went on to other teams or retirement, but at the same time, I think the team, the fan base feels pretty good about it. As long as Tom Brady's healthy, I mean, you've got to feel good about your chances.
Yeah, definitely. So with you being an offensive line guy, what's going on with the offensive line with Tampa Bay? I know that there's been some retirements, like you mentioned. You had some guys leave in the offseason. You've had a lot of injuries in the offseason. I know that Tristan Wirfs is back. How's the rest of the offensive line looking so far?
That's one of the big questions. I mean, when you lose Ryan Jensen, your center, who's basically the leader on that offensive line, he makes all the calls. Ali Marpet went into retirement, and Alex Kappa signed with Cincinnati. So when you look at that, that's really the skull and bones of your offensive line, those three interior players, because those are the players that are, in charge of keeping the depth of the pocket. So basically, they have to be stout at the point of attack, and they have to not allow movement coming into Tom Brady's face, because what you want to do is have your quarterback be able to step into his throws. You look at Tom Brady, he's an older quarterback. He's still got some steam on that arm, but you don't want him having to, try and use his wrist to get passes out there. You want him to be able to step into those throws. So that's the big question. Tristan Wirfs, of course, is your A-plus tackle, your guy that you want on the backside for your quarterback. But I think the middle of that offensive line, where you lose those three pieces, those three key cogs, there are questions. And, you can play well in a preseason. You can stick some guys in there and think they're going to do well, but until you face live action, you don't know what you have. So I think that is the big question right now on the offensive line. Can the interior of that offensive line be stout at the point of attack and keep Tom Brady up on his feet?
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair. And the Cowboys are basically going through the exact same thing. We let Lyle Collins walk in free agency. We inserted Terrence Steele, who played really well in Collins' suspension last year. So the team feels pretty good about him, a former undrafted free agent that they've developed. Shout out to Duke Manyweather for helping with that. And then we spent our first-round pick on Tyler Smith to be our left guard to replace Connor Williams, who's now Miami Dolphins center guard, something like that. Only to have Tyron Smith go down and then had to slide him right outside to tackle, at least for week 1, while we get Jason Peters ramped back up. So the Cowboys' offensive line is definitely in flux too. So when we talk about notable losses, you mentioned some of the guys on the offensive line. I know on the defensive side, you lost Sue. He's still a free agent. JPP's a free agent as well, or I don't know if he's not a free agent, but he's not with the Bucs again. Who's a notable addition that you guys had? Is there a certain draft pick or free agent signing or anything like that you think will help boost the Bucs this year?
Absolutely. Julio Jones. And I say that because you've got Tom Brady. And the one thing that Tom Brady knows how to do is get the ball to playmakers where they want to get the football. I think when you look at what happened in Tennessee last year, they didn't use Julio Jones the way that I thought they should have. Julio Jones can still stretch the field. He's still athletic enough to physically dominate defensive backs on the outside. And I think when you've got a Tom Brady that understands angles, understands where to put the football, understands the game of football on a whole different level, it changes, what you're able to do. One of the things that Brady does a really good job is getting the ball to the players in space so they can make plays. And I think with the young offensive line, with some of the new talent they've got on the offensive line, you're going to see a quick pass game early on until those guys get adjusted to the blocking schemes. And with that quick passing game, you get a ball to Julio Jones and you let him move around and do what he does, he's going to make plays. So you can't just worry about Mike Evans on one side and his height and his ability to get down the field. Now you have to worry about Julio Jones. And when you get Godwin back and he's fully healthy in the slot, I think that changes what this team is able to do as far as stretching the field, as far as hitting those seams. Now, everybody talks about the big question with Rob Gronkowski going away. But once again, like I said, with the Julio Jones, you add a different dimension to this ball club. And I think also a guy that people need to look at, and he's not a new addition. He was an addition last season, and I think he was brought in to replace Shady McCoy. But I think Giovanni Bernardo is a great guy to have back in the offense because of his ability to catch the ball underneath and make plays with his legs. So I think bringing him back, but also bringing in a Julio Jones who's hungry because he heard all the whispers his last year in Atlanta. He was done. He was washed up. He heard all the whispers when he didn't have a so-called breakout season. But let's not, put too much into that. Julio Jones was the Atlanta Falcons offense for 10 plus years. So, he took a lot of beatings. He took a lot of hits. He took a lot of contact. Down in Tampa Bay, they're not going to expect him to do that. I think they expected too much from him in Tennessee. I think in Tampa Bay, they will use him the proper way, and I think that he will be a great addition for their ball club.
Yeah, that's fair. Mary, Spoonie, Tuck, you guys got any Bucs questions for him?
Well, yeah, I have a quick question for us. And it's not really related to the Bucs. It's more about the offensive line. I know that you played the offensive line position. So Matt just mentioned about Tyler Smith making a transition from left tackle. So tell some of the viewers, how difficult is it, not only one, to be a left tackle and a rookie at the NFL level, but also to kind of start off as a guard throughout camp and then with the week left, get switched over to left tackle? And what are some of the different nuances that he has to focus on?
Okay, when you're playing the guard position, you're basically picking it up, putting it down. You'll hear that phrase often, and that means you're picking up that outside foot and you're putting it down. You're not really moving. You're not really dancing. When you're on the outside, you're on an island, and you're considered a dancing bear, especially at the left tackle position, because most people aren't naturally gifted to be a left tackle and to kick back with your left foot. Your mind tells you to kick back with your right foot because most people are right-footed. So when you're playing left tackle, some of the things that you have to do as opposed to being a guard is you've got to be able to look at the defensive end or outside linebacker, whomever is playing that rush in. You've got to be able to train your mind to kick straight back. What you also have to do is make sure that you keep your shoulders square to the line of scrimmage. You can't turn that outside shoulder prior to your third kick step, because if you do, now you're giving up a short corner. But you also have to be mindful when you're kicking out there, trying to get out there so fast that a defensive lineman, a great one, will cut back under you. So you have to not kick too far and get your legs too far spread apart, because you may have to power step if that defensive player takes an inside move and you want to try and drive them into the guard, into the center area. The difference is, as a guard, your man is right there. He's in your face. There's no dancing. There's no guessing. You don't guess if he's going inside out, if he's coming with a speed rush, if he's trying to spin. It's man up, grown man, square chin football on the interior. So when you've got a guy that's been playing inside, those are usually your roughhouse, your roughnecks, those guys that love the physicality of the game. The guys on the outside are your dancing bears. They're going to do a lot of hand fighting. They're going to do a lot of kick stepping. They're going to do a lot of power stepping. And they've got to keep a low center of gravity, meaning you cannot bend your back. You've got to be squatty. You've got to be able to sit in your stance. You've got to be able to stay low. And once again, that outside shoulder is the key. As long as you can keep that outside shoulder away for 3 kick steps. At the third kick step, you're at the quarterback's level. Now you can turn, take that inside hand, and run that guy past the quarterback. Once again, as a tackle, your job is to keep the width of the pocket. As a guard, your job is to keep the depth of the pocket. So guards and centers, they're going to stay right at the line of scrimmage, and they want to be tough. For your tackles, they're kicking, and they're creating that oval shape for the quarterback to have the pocket to do what he needs to do.
That's a lot for a rookie.
How about that for an answer?
Now I got a little nervous.
Yeah, when we ask those questions, we typically hear, when you're a guard, you're playing in a phone booth, and that's kind of the mental picture that people have. But you kind of went through the whole nuance of what they're doing from a technique standpoint and what the difference is. A good follow-up question to that for us, and we're hearing this a lot in the Cowboys community because we've been dying for a swing tackle for years now. You mentioned that it's not easy to slide in from tackle to guard. How about the difference in playing right tackle and left tackle? Because obviously your footwork's different. Your technique's going to change as you flip over there. It's not as easy as people think, saying, well, if you play on the left side, it's just the same thing, but on the right side, you're just adjusting your steps. It's not really quite that easy. If that was the case, a lot of teams wouldn't have an issue finding swing tackles, but it's kind of an epidemic league-wide. So from somebody like yourself that played tackle at a high level, what are your thoughts? Do you think teams are better off finding a true swing tackle who can play both, or finding a backup right tackle and a backup left tackle?
It's very difficult to find swing tackles because the way college offenses are set up now. When I played, we had to play both sides, and I think that's what made us so versatile. But to play right tackle, you're mostly going against bigger defensive ends, more powerful defensive ends. You've got to be more of a power tackle out there. You've got to be more aggressive. I think on the left side, you're going against speed rushers. You're going against pass rushers. You're going against guys that are getting up the field. So you've got to be more of a dancing bear on that side. You've got to have quicker feet. Think about left tackles. You don't really see a lot of big left tackles. The best left tackles we've ever seen, Jonathan Ogden, Walter Jones. These are guys that are not huge 350, 360-pound guys. Tyron Smith, look at him. This is not some huge guy. These are guys that are lean. They're big, but they're lean, and they can get back, and they're versatile with their hips. You've got to have hips when you're playing left tackle, because there are a lot of nuances that go into playing that left tackle, because the majority of the time, the left tackle is protecting the backside of the quarterback. The quarterback cannot see. He can only feel that pressure. So that's why you have left tackles that make so much money, because they're protecting the backside of a right-handed quarterback. Now, you've got a left-handed quarterback. The right tackle that protects a left-handed quarterback is going to make a lot of money, because that is the backside tackle for a left-handed quarterback. But the nuances, I think, that you face more so from left tackle to right is you're going to see more speed rushers. And as an offensive tackle, the thing that you don't want to see when you're doing game planning, when you see a guy that's 6'3" to 6'6", and it's between 240 and 260, all week long, you've got to work on your kick steps. You got to work on those shoulders, because this guy's coming with speed rush. He's going to get up the field, and he's going to challenge you. And especially when you're playing One of the things I did when I played in hostile environments is I would look straight ahead, and I always had a shield on, so the defenders could never see where my eyes were. Because, like I said, the nuances of the game is understanding your opponent, and when a defensive player can see your eyes, they can kind of dictate what you're getting ready to do. So I will wear a shield. And when we would play, let's say when we played at Florida, University of Florida, it was very difficult to hear. And so we would hold hands with the guard. And when the guard tucked, we would kick step. But when you're facing an elite pass rusher like a Kevin Carter, that's 6'6", 290 pounds, running a 4.5 40, and you can't hear your quarterback or your center, you've got to pretty much, go with the force. So I would look straight ahead, and any movement I saw from my inside eye, that would dictate to me to kick back. But I would not turn my head. I would continue to kick straight back, and I would not turn my head until I was into my third kick step, because it's natural when you turn your head for your shoulders to shift. And that small shift will give the short corner that the defense needs.
Oh, I have a question.
That's
I'm sorry, you got one, Mary?
Go ahead, Spoonie.
Yeah,
No, go ahead, Spoonie.
besides offensive line, is there another area in the defense do you feel the Cowboys can exploit?
Well, defensive back. There's some questions. Winfield is a really, really good safety, and he knows how to monitor that side of the football. He does a really good job. Carlton Davis does a really good job playing cornerback, but there's some youth in the defensive backfield, and they're going to be tested. Anytime you've got a CD Lamb, you're going to get it out there and see what he can do. CD Lamb is one of those guys where you just throw it in the area and he'll go make a play for you. That's why, he's your number one receiver. So I think, they're going to test them, but it all depends on the offensive line. As great as the two quarterbacks that we'll see in that ball game, Dak and Brady, they can't be great if they are not on their feet. The worst thing that a quarterback can see is the front of his offensive lineman's jerseys, because that means they've turned around to look to find out where the guy is that beat them, that's beating up their quarterback. So I think for both ball clubs, it'll be a test at the line of scrimmage. That's going to dictate who wins the football game, who can block and keep their quarterback upright, because I think there'll be opportunities for both offenses.
That's a good question. Good. Yeah. We have a question from the chat for us really quickly.
I have a quick question.
Oh, go ahead, Mary. Of course, go ahead.
How are you feeling about Todd Bowles as the head coach?
I think Todd Bowles understands the assignment. He was there when they won the championship. He understands. He's been in a situation where his teams didn't do very well. But when you're coaching a team with Tom Brady on your offense, you really don't have to worry about that side of the football. I think he's going to allow Byron Leftwich to lead the offense, and the relationship that Leftwich and Brady have, I think, makes that a special combination. I look at the defense and I look at what he's able to do with the defenses, and I think that's where his concentration will be. But I think it's a shared effort. I think that Byron Leftwich will run that offense, and I think Todd will run that defense, and I think he'll do pretty well, because when you look at the situations that he's been in, and they've been rebuilding situations, and this is not a rebuild. This is let's go out and do what we do. We've got all the pieces in place. We're not guessing or hoping. We know we have the pieces in place to win. We've done it before. So I think for Todd Bowles, it's a great situation because he's not in a rebuild situation.
Good point.
So, quick question from the chat, Forrest. What kind of blocking strategy would you use against Vita Vea?
There is none.
Pray? Just double team, pray.
Run the other way. Don't run between the tackles. I mean, he is the epitome of a true zero technique. When you think Vita Vea, you think Big Goose, God rest his soul. You think Sam Adams. You don't Marcel Darius. These are guys that you just put down in a zero gap and say, hey, don't let anything get through here. And because he's so massive and so athletic, and I think that's what's overlooked. People look at his size. They don't understand how athletic he is. And he's such a powerful man. He's able to allow those linebackers to flow downhill because he attract so much attention. You're not going to block him with one player. You're going to have a lot of tandem blocks between the guard and center, trying to double team him and climb up to the second level. But like I said, he's so powerful, they can't get off of that block to disengage and get to the linebackers because they're flowing downhill so fast. So he's just a guy I think that you run away from. You know, there's certain guys that you're not going to be able to block, and it's just a waste of time. And he's one of those waste of time guys to me. It's just not a good deal to try and run at him.
I mean, that was exactly the Cowboys' game plan last year when we played them. They basically just said, we're not even going to try to run up the middle. We're going to attack the edges and pass the ball. We're going to throw screen passes as those extended handoffs, and we're just simply not going to try because you at the time had Vita Vea and Sue, and we had Zach Martin out with COVID, so we just decided we're not even going to attempt it. This year, with Zach Martin healthy, we may try a little bit, but you're still not going to see a ton. I mean, Vita Vea is, like Forrest mentioned, your ideal one-tech, zero-tech type of body. So I want to make sure that we're respectful of your time. I want to go ahead because I know we have some Florida State fans in the chat, and we have our guy Tuck here is an FSU fan. So we're going to talk FSU football really quickly, a few questions, and then get your score prediction, and we'll let you get out. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Tuck, the floor is yours. What you got?
All right, Forrest, I'm not sure if you can see it, but right here in my man cave, I got my prized possession. It's an autographed picture of Coach Bobby Bowden. So tell us, what was it like for playing with Coach Bobby Bowden? Because your team is the reason why I'm a Florida State fan. You know, I still got my Charlie Ward cards right here in my basement still to this day. So what was it like playing for Coach Bobby Bowden? What's like some of the best lessons that you learned from him?
That's a funny question because I get asked that all the time. I've done games out in Washington State, and when they found out that I played for Coach Bowden, the one question they always ask is, he really like what we see on TV? I tell people, no, he's not. He's bad. You know, he was a really good dude that understood how to be a player's coach. A lot of times coaches come and they recruit players and they sit in your living room and they tell your parents, I'm going to treat your son or your daughter like they're my child, and I'm going to be a father figure to them. And he actually did do that. And I think that is what was important to a lot of the players that played for him, and that's why he's so well respected. When he faced adversity, the way that he responded to it, not with aggression, but with class and dignity. And I think that, you know, played a big role in who a lot of his players became and how they faced adversity. You know, I was on the field at first wide right, and everybody thinking that the field goal was good and we won the football. I was on the field the second wide right. You know, when we lost, tied, you know, down in Miami. You know, we could have tied the game. I was on the field, you know, at Notre Dame, you know, when we lost a heartbreaker and thought that was it, you know, after we had finally beaten Miami and gotten over that hump. You know, and I was in the locker room when we knew what the odds were and what we had to beat NC State by to jump back to number 1 or number 2 prior to going down to play Florida. And how he responded to that and how we responded as a team. And I think that is what helped us become champions, because we were never too high, we were never too low. And when the chips, you know, were against us, we were able to rally together. And you're only as good as your leader. And I think people need to understand that. You know, you talk about these great Alabama teams, they're great because of their leader and how he responds. You know, you ever notice when Nick Saban loses, he never gives the other team credit. You know? And I love that. You know, because it's not about them. It's never about the other team. It's about us and what we did or didn't do. And so when you look at being a great team, a great organization, I think it starts with your leader. It starts with the person that is leading you into battle each week, that's training you and preparing you for the battle that you're about to face. And I think that's what made him a great coach.
Perfect. Well, I have an FSU question. I know with FSU, when they played Florida and they played the Miami Hurricanes, a big rivalry. I gotta ask you, which team was your biggest rivalry on Saturdays?
Absolutely, Miami.
Yeah, Miami.
When you the thing about playing Florida, when we played Florida at Florida State, we knew we were going to win that game. We knew it was going to be a tough game, but we knew we were going to win that game. Playing at Florida, that's a whole different story. The most difficult place I've ever played in my life. They get to make those chants that they do when they say orange, blue, it shakes the stadium. And then they do the Gator chop and the Gator chant. And then when we're on the field, like I said, you can't hear anything. So you knew when you had to play Florida at Florida, you could win, but it was going to be extremely difficult. But we felt confident when they came to our house. Miami, totally different story. You know, Miami, we always looked at that as the national championship game.
Right.
If they had college football playoffs when we played, we would always be in the playoffs, and Miami would always be in the playoffs. Because whoever lost that game would always end up being the one team right outside number 1 or number 2 at the end of the season, and nobody wanted to see them. But they were just a very difficult team to play, because you think about all the great players. You know, I played against Warren Sapp. I played against Ray Lewis. You know, these are two guys that are considered all-time greats. You know, and you know, so when you played that game, they would come and they would beat you they could beat us at home. That was the one team that we knew coming into our house could beat us. And so it was just a different rivalry, a difference about it. You know, being in Tallahassee, there are a lot of Miami kids that go to Florida State, a lot of Miami kids that go to Florida A&M University, and it would almost be, you know, half and half Miami week. You would have people that, you know, were your friends that were Miami fans, and they didn't care about you during that week. It was all about the U. So, you know, you had to adjust to that as well. Then, you know, a lot of FAMU kids were Miami kids. So they love Miami. They love the U. And also, you got to think, when you play Florida and Miami, these are all guys, we all grew up together. You know, we all played against each other or played with each other in high school. So it was that neighborhood rivalry as well. But Miami by far was the biggest and best rivalry.
Well, they scheduled Florida State for homecoming this year, so November 5th is going to be fun.
Yeah, they're going to, you know what? That's going to be a very interesting game. I called a Miami game last week. Offensively, they've got one of the best quarterbacks in college football. He might be the best quarterback in college football. I mean, this kid is big. He's huge. And you don't know how big he is until you step on the field and you see him. He's legitimately 6'4", 6'5", legitimately 220, 230, and he can spin it. And, you know, he's getting better and better and better, and they've got talent on the outside. The big questions for Miami is defensively. You know, they've got to develop the linebacker position. They've got to get more pressure from the defensive line position. So that makes for an interesting ball game, because Florida State still has a couple of questions. And, you know, as they get to that game, I like the fact that it's later in the year. Both teams will have kind of, you know, created and, you know, developed their identity. And I think it makes for a great ball game.
Going to be a fun one.
So Forrest, one of our mods, his name is Mendoza. He's in the chat. He's a huge FSU fan too. He has a 2-part question for you, and then we'll jump over and get your score prediction for the Cowboys-Bucs game. He wants to know, what are your thoughts on how the O-line played Sunday night and how they progressed under Coach Atkins in the 2 years he's been there? And then the second question is, what is your outlook mindset as a player and alumni of the program after a win like Sunday night? So the first question is how the offensive line played and how they progressed under Coach Atkins. And the second question is, as a player, former player and alumni, what is the mindset or outlook for the season after a big win like last weekend?
Okay, first question. When you look at that offensive line, I thought they played extremely well. I thought they showed that they know where to go and knew what to do. And I think that Coach Atkins has done a really, really good job of not only getting players out of the portal, but getting high school players that can come in and contribute. One of the players that I think will contribute and continue to contribute more as the season progresses and he gets acclimated to the college game is Julian Armella. Big kid out of Miami. Great feet, great footwork, very aggressive player. But the thing I like about the offensive line, they went out and they found work. One of the things I think people have to realize about offensive linemen is it's the only position on the field that every single play is designed for you to hit somebody. Every single play. There's not one play that an offensive lineman is tasked with not making contact. And it's the only position on the field that does that. And what I saw is every play somebody going and hitting somebody. And one of the things our motto was when I played, if you didn't know who to hit, if they got another curly jersey on, hit them. Right? Hit them. But don't go out there and not get no work. And that's what I like. And, you know, we had 2 guys that were slated to start that, you know, got hurt and unfortunately are out for the season. But we didn't miss a beat with the other guys that they plugged in. And that's what you want to see. Because as we all know, injuries happen. And what are you going to do? Is the next guy ready? And so I saw that. And one thing people have to realize: LSU didn't have a great record last season, but that doesn't mean they don't have great athletes. That doesn't mean they don't have ball players.
Right.
And when you look at the stage of that game, this is the first game of the season. They've got a new head coach. They've got a new energy in the building. That everybody is 0-0. Everybody has a chance to win a championship. Everybody, is watching this game. And for the offensive line to do as good of a job as they did, and don't get me wrong, Jordan Travis, was able to escape a lot of times and get out of pressure. But you look at the LSU quarterback, I think he ran out of at least 6 sacks.
He was just taking off.
So, yeah, I mean, and I tell people, I'm like, the FSU won't see a quarterback like him, I think, the rest of the season. I like the kid Anthony Richardson down at Florida, but I don't think he gets to top end speed as quick as that kid for LSU. But I think the line did really well, and they got to continue to get better and get better and get better and get better. But to face a tough opponent like that so early in the season, and basically a home game for LSU, and be able to get the production that they did. And people say, well, we didn't have a 100-yard rusher, but no, let's look at the overall rushing yards. You're not going to always have a 100-yard rusher, but can you get over 150 yards rushing? That's what you look at, the totality. So I thought they did pretty well, and I want to see them continue to progress. Now, outlook, I think sky's the limit. Sky's the limit.
There we
I
go.
think, when they come back, they've got an off week, which I think is great because they played week 0. And so when they come back, they'll play Louisville. Now, Louisville is coming off a tough loss to Syracuse, but they've got a tough game this week. They got to go down there to Central Florida. And, Gus Malzahn, he understands what he has down there. And he's got a team that's going to come to play, and Central Florida always feels like they have something to prove. So I don't know if Louisville's going to be able to go down there and win, but it's a tough ball game for them. And honestly, being a Florida State guy, I'm glad we don't play them this week because they're pissed off. They got embarrassed by Syracuse, 31-0.
Right.
This is a team that people were talking about could be a dark horse, in the Atlantic Division. So now they've got to, pull themselves together and go out and play against another tough ball club. And I think with the high that we had coming off the Louisville game, they need to refocus, resettle. That's over. That's great. We got the win. Let's focus on Louisville. Let's watch this game against UCF. Let's see what Louisville is about, and let's prepare ourselves and get ready for that ball game. If they can get through that game, I think they have an opportunity to exceed any expectations that people had of them. Because I don't know if you guys watched that defensive line, but Jared Verse is for real.
Yeah.
And when you look at what Jermaine Johnson did coming from Georgia, transferring into Florida State, going first round, and then you look at what Jared Verse has done, coming in and having such a big game after all the hype, because we know you hear hype a lot of times about guys that come in and you never hear their name again. But for him to have the hype and then do what he did in a big game, and LSU is known for great offensive linemen. So for him to be able to do that, 2 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, a block kick. I mean, that's a lot of people don't have that in a career. So
Right.
do that in a big game, that shows that, he's got some dog in it. And I think what they've done, Florida State has done, they've really taken advantage of the portal. And they're getting some dog. They got some dogs. Tatum Bethune, the kid from UCF, they got some dogs on that team. They got a wide receiver from Illinois, 6'4" kid that can catch it, and that can get down the field. So I think the sky's the limit, but they've got to take it one game at a time. I didn't like that some of the young guys were saying, we're back. No.
Not yet.
You're back when you win championship.
Right.
Back isn't 2-0. Back isn't 9-0. Back isn't an ACC championship. Back is a national championship. So, but I like the enthusiasm. Don't get me wrong, but I think having an off week helps them to settle back down and, refocus and get prepared. And one thing I like what Coach Norvell said, we're not back, but we see the light at the end of the tunnel. And we got to keep running towards the light. So I think, I'm optimistic about them. And of course, with me, it's always go Noles and nobody else. At the same time, I think they've got the makings to progress and be a much better team than we've seen in the last 3 or 4 years.
Fingers crossed.
No, that's fair. So enough of the FSU talk. Forrest,
Oh,
what is your game prediction? Cowboys or Tampa? Who wins and what's the score?
I think Tampa wins the game. but I think it's going to be a very competitive,
knew you were
very
going to say that.
physical
I just
game.
knew you were going to say
Things
that.
were going so well. Things were going so well.
Hey, man, but I'm a Tampa guy. I'm a Tampa guy. But, my thing is this. The question I have,
Did we lose him?
I don't know. Forrest, are you still there? It just cut out.
That's what happens when you pick Tampa.
Elliott's going to do.
He's back. He's back. Okay, Forrest, it cut out for a second. If you could just say that again. What the last thing we heard was the question
Okay,
I have.
I think the biggest question, the question I have is Zeke Elliott taking football serious? Because he hasn't taken football serious the last 2 years. And when he takes football serious, Dallas is a very different ball club because you have to load the box and you get man coverage on the outside. And as great as CD Lamb is, they can cover him, they can double him, they can bracket him, they keep a safety over the top if Elliott is not doing anything running the football. So to me, the big question is Zeke Elliott taking football serious? If he does, and he looks good, he looks great. But at the same time, is he going to run like he did prior to getting that big deal? Is he going to run like someone that wants it? And I think like I said, you're going to have a hungry Tampa team. They've heard all of the rumblings about offensive line. They've heard all of the rumblings about Tom Brady being off for an extended period of time. And, they understand that every game counts. And I think with Dallas, there's more questions offensive line-wise. Losing Tyron Smith, that hurts because, he's the key plug on that offensive line. For Tampa, the big concern is Michael Parsons. Where is he? Every play, you've got to know where he is. Every play, you've got to have two people assigned to him because he can disrupt everything that you want to do offensively. So Tampa, I think they've got some questions. Dallas has got some questions. I think Dallas, you lost some players on your defensive line that are going to hurt a little bit. The guy that kind of went back and forth, I forgot his name.
Randy Gregory.
Yeah, Randy Gregory. Randy Gregory was a big time player for you. And you didn't have the gaudy stats all the time, but that's what people have to realize. It's not always about gaudy stats. It's about, being a problem on the field and making teams game plan for you. And he was one of those types of guys. Long kid, long arms, aggressive on the outside, great hand fighter. So you had to prepare for that. So I think you don't have to prepare for that. They've got other pieces that they've got and they can plug in. But I think the big key is Michael Parsons. If you can get a hat on Michael Parsons every play, which, it's very easy to say it, but not easily accomplished, you give yourselves a chance. And I think they're smart enough and understand that, you've got to block him. But I think it's going to be a great game. I say 31-27, Tampa.
Keep in mind, too, last year when we played, it was Michael Parsons' first ever game, and he dropped back in coverage 29 snaps. Zero chance that happens this time. He's going to be rushing Brady a lot more often than he's dropping back in coverage. But that's a great answer. So you heard his prediction. Forrest, for those that don't know who you are, I've definitely put it out on Twitter. They can follow you at IamBigFo. That's his Twitter handle. He is an ESPN college game day analyst. Tell people where they can find you.
I will be calling the West Virginia-Kansas game this weekend up in Morgantown, West Virginia. Which should be a great college football environment. We're kicking off at 6 p.m., so that gives everybody enough time to sauce up and get ready. And I expect it to be a hostile crowd for the Kansas fan base, but I expect it to be a very good game. West Virginia looked really good against Pittsburgh. A couple of plays here and there, and they win that ball game. So they're both trying to win their first conference game. It's a big game for both teams. They both feel like they're still alive in it, especially Kansas. They're 1-0, coming off a great game, great offensive performance, over 50 points. But you've got a tough, physical, fast, strong West Virginia ball club. And Neil Brown's got some pressure, being the coach there. The expectation is to win. And, I've covered Neil Brown when he was down at Troy, did a great job at Troy. And I think he's a great coach for that organization, that program. And I think they just got to give him time. So I think it'll be a great ball game, and I look forward to that.
Forrest, again, we really appreciate having you on. Everybody make sure to go follow him on Twitter. It's at IamBigFo. That's F-O. So go give him a follow. As you can see, he's a great football mind. You can find him on college football games, like you mentioned, West Virginia. Forrest, good luck this weekend. I will
Thank
chat
you.
with
Thanks
you
for joining
after
us.
the
Thank you.
game. I
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
having you on.
Do you know
Thank
who
you,
the
guys.
next Black Panther is?
There's these
So
things
Tuck,
called
he didn't even tell me he
NDAs.
was part of the MCU. He didn't even tell me he was on the MCU until after the episode released. I would have told everybody, like, hey, you
Yeah.
hear this from me, but
Hmm.
maybe
Hey
tune
man,
in
I
tonight
like
because
the
there might be
organic.
somebody you know.
I like the organicness of it. I've got a couple of projects that'll be dropping soon that I've done, and the organicness of doing it and people, just watching, and all of a sudden you pop up on the screen. That's the cool part. Now it's hard
There you
to keep a secret because with the Marvel stuff, we actually did that in 2019, and because of COVID, things got put on hold, and it was a year and a half after I taped that before it came out. So you're worried about if you're gonna get edited out. You don't know what's gonna happen, and are they gonna just scrap the project? And but that was a hard one, I will admit. That was an extremely hard one to keep under wraps. But the joy when it was released and people seeing it and being shocked and surprised, it's all worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
That's
cool
what's
because
up
I
right
had
there.
no idea at all until I watched the episode, and I was like, oh my God, I worked with this
Wait a
dude.
minute.
It's funny because he's on college. Like, I see him on broadcast. Like, I text him during games, and then he was like, quit texting me during the games. You're messing me up. So I stopped doing that. So, like, I see him on TV all the
because, man,
time,
you want to
but the
hold a
MCU one was
conversation.
the one I didn't expect. Yeah, I was trying to have a whole conversation. Like, oh,
Yeah.
drop this stat. And he's like, shut up. I already know that. Like, I got this. So, anyways, Forrest, again, we really appreciate you joining. I hope you have a great evening.
Thanks, Forrest.
Best of luck this
Thank you.
weekend, and we'll chat sometime next week about the game.
All right, thank you guys for having me. Have a good one.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So we got that one in the books. It's time now. We went really long with him, but it was good conversation, so wanted to continue to go with that. So I want to jump right into a couple of news and notes, things that are notable, and then we're going to jump right into our Cowboys Bucs breakdown because we're already 46 minutes in. So a couple of news and notes. We had some injury updates with Jordan Lewis and Michael Gallup. Both of them got encouraging updates. Jordan Lewis practiced today and is expected to be able to play from his hamstring injury this weekend. So that's good because there was some uncertainty on if it was going to be Bland or what they were going to do there. So it looks like J-Lou will be a full go as of today. And we got to see Michael Gallup in limited action. He was taking part in individual drills, ran some routes, and looked pretty sharp. He's still not going to be a go this weekend. He's going to sit out maybe week 2 or week 3, but he's a lot further ahead of time of schedule than what we all thought. So the medical breakthroughs they're having with ACL repairs is crazy. So the bear technique is something that they've recently started doing about 2019, and you're seeing recovery times about a month and a half roughly earlier than what you've seen before. And some athletes are even bouncing back 6 months after surgery, which is like unheard of. So it's crazy what they're doing in terms of medical advancement. And then Godwin, same thing. He was injured, had a surgery the month before Gallup, and there's a possibility he could play this week. So we'll see. It's definitely encouraging news that he's already out there running routes and getting back into the swing of things. And then we also got to see Jason Peters today at practice for the first time, taking part in individual drills. So those are some of the big notable updates in terms of injuries. I'm going quick just because I want to make sure I give the panel plenty of time to talk about this upcoming game because that's the thing we're all excited about. A couple notable things. Our guy Kevontae Turpin now has a number. He's no longer sharing number 2 with Jordan Lewis. He is now number 9. Apparently, he didn't get to pick the number. I don't know what number he requested, but the Cowboys did what the Cowboys do, and they said, nope, you're number 9. And also this week, Fossil just happened to mention, oh, we think he could be a Devin Hester type of player. So we're giving him a number 9, calling him Devin Hester type of player, just throwing all the expectations out of the window. So good luck to him. I did see a cool note. We all got access to this Cowboys media portal, and they put a stat. The Cowboys in the history of the team have had 1 punt return for a touchdown. That was Kelvin Martin in the opening week in team history. They've never had a kick return for a touchdown. So keep an eye on that. If Kevontae Turpin is able to return a kick for a touchdown this week, he'll be the first Cowboy in team history to do that. So I thought that was kind of a cool note to kind of put a tie on that one. And then also, there's a lot of other number changes, but I'm just going to talk about the notable ones. Jason Peters is now number 71. Well, Let's Go gave that up. I think that was kind of a no-brainer. I heard some people ask like what the conversation was like, and somebody said he just stared at him. Well, Let's Go's like, your number, take it, bro, all yours. So I think Let's Go's number 79 now. And then Jake Ferguson has a new number. And also our guy Anthony Barr is now number 42. So there's other numbers out there, but those are kind of the notable ones you'll actually see this week. Cool. With that all said, let's talk about the game. Mary, how are you feeling about the Bucs game? What worries you? What are you excited about? And we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, I mean, the offensive line, obviously, that's something we've been talking about all off season. And then, Tyler's been his first start at left tackle. That's very nerve-wracking. I think, worried about, the play calling and how that's going to be. So I'm really just worried about the offense as a whole, honestly. I want to keep Dak healthy, keep him safe, and hopefully Kellen Moore is going to be doing all the things that they've done in the offseason as far as the play calling and the things they've been working on. Hopefully see some 12 personnel, see more Zeke and Pollard on the field at the same time. Hopefully. But yeah, I'm really worried about the overall. Defense is what I'm really excited about. And I think they're going to have to carry the load, at least for these first few weeks, until our offense gets in a groove and our inexperienced players get a little bit more time. Obviously excited about Turpin as well, because that's seeing what he did in that preseason game. I mean, that's, like you said, we haven't seen that ever. And like we said before, special teams matter. So that can be a big difference maker in winning games this season.
Okay. What about you, Spoonie? What are you excited about? What are you worried about for this game?
Well, I'm going to start off by saying I'm more worried about the reaction after we get this W on the Facebook Live from all of us. Yeah. That's what I'm worried about.
It's a night game too. Whew.
No, that's what I'm worried about. I already been through the war, the reaction after the W, and we know how to turn it up. So, no, but going back to it, I'm with Mary, the offensive line. That's been the main thing throughout this off season. I know wide receiver has been there, but I believe with the 12 personnel that PO, you start with the conversation with that throughout the whole time of the process. I think they're gonna be okay. It might not be as explosive as it was last year in the beginning, but they're gonna be okay. I believe just the offensive line is the issue. As far as defense, boy, listen. Key to the game: unleash. That's just it. Unleash it all. Don't hold back. Unleash it all. That's all I gotta say.
Okay.
Don't tuck it.
How about you? I'm really intrigued to hear how Tuck's feeling about this, because I have a feeling I know where he's going to go, but I'd like to hear it. Tuck, walk it out for us.
No.
And again, if you haven't seen Jay Tuck, which you should know him by now, but if you have not, he is friend and family of the show, and he also has his own YouTube channel. It's CFO Sports. So definitely go give that a follow right after this. But Tuck, go ahead. Walk it out.
Yeah, I'm just excited to see our team finally get back to football, because we didn't get to see our starters all preseason and camp because Matt likes to rest everybody, right? So, that's the one thing I'm looking forward to, is just kind of seeing how this team responds after what happened versus San Francisco. Two areas of concern is the game planning, man, because I feel like when you look at the way the matchup is constructed, it's like, all right, you should be able to pass all over this Tampa Bay Bucs defense, but you're coming in with a starting left tackle who's got 0 reps, 0 preparation. So will Kellen Moore really stick to going, being more a balanced approach with the run game, or is it going to still remain being passive like we saw week 1? So that's one of my concerns. And my second concern is Tom Brady. And we know when GOATs go through something personal or off the field, they typically channel that on the field or on the court, right? We've seen kind of Kobe do it, Michael Jordan do it, and Tom Brady did it. So I hope that we don't be take the brunt of all the frustrations that Tom Brady's going through off the field, on the field. So those are my few areas of concern besides the typical offensive line. But from a defensive standpoint, I'm interested to see how does this defense really play if our offense isn't able to overcompensate. Because I feel like last year, our offense, since we were so explosive, we were able to get a lot of teams out of character. So what happens if, they're able to kind of play this slow, lethargic, and kind of play at their own pace? How does our defense really look? But I think overall, man, I'm feeling confident about this game. Even though they're already trying to strip our credit away, I feel like the Dallas Cowboys are going to come away with the victory on Sunday night.
You heard it right there, folks. So we're going to get into score predictions and all that stuff in a second. I have another question for you guys, following up on what you're excited about and what you're worried about. And I'm going to start with Spoonie this time. We'll go Tuck and then let Mary finish it up. The Cowboys will win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers if they do what this week? The Cowboys will win against Tampa Bay if they do what? There's a lot of angles you can go with that.
If they protect Dak Prescott and allow him to work that pocket.
Okay. What about you,
Yeah,
Tuck? The Cowboys will win
second
this
that.
week if they do what?
I second exactly what Spoonie said. I just said it, dropped it in the video. If they're able to keep Dak clean, he can carve this defense up. But they have to keep him clean. They cannot get Dak Prescott sped up. So protect Dak. Light them candles, Mary.
Facts. Yeah, I mean.
What about you, Mary?
Echoing what they said, that's the most important thing is him not getting pressured all game. And just like Tug mentioned before, the game plan, the offensive game plan has to be right. So I'm hoping, don't tuck it, let it hang.
I love it. So my answer is not too far off what you guys are saying. I feel very confident with how our defense is gonna show up. I feel pretty confident our offense is going to show up because early season Kellen is in the bag Kellen. That's what we've seen historically with Kellen. Early season Cowboys is not what you see mid-season when injuries start happening and attrition and things like that and teams get a chance to watch film. We're typically pretty good early in the season. So considering that I already feel good about the defense and I feel fairly good about the offense, I have to think back on last year. We win the game if our special teams unit shows up.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm putting a lot of pressure on Bones Fossil and his team, special teams unit, to show up because I feel really good about the defense. I feel pretty good about the offense. Special teams is still a big question mark. I mean, we have Maher. Round 2, we'll see how it goes. He had a pretty good year last year, but we know how his tenure in Dallas ended the year before. We have Turpin, who we feel sky high on after preseason, but it's regular season. It's prime time. Things like that matter to young players. Not that I expect him to muff a punt or anything like that. I'm just saying, you start overthinking things and maybe cut back a little sooner. Your internal clock speeds up a little bit. The first real game action you get. And again, I'm not saying those are things that are. I'm just saying those are things that could happen. So for me, the Cowboys will win the game if their special teams shows up because I feel like our defense and offense will show up. I'm worried about the special teams still.
I'm team just go for 2 because I'm not sitting through this again. So
I'm right there with you. Basically, as soon as you cross the 50, I don't want to punt or kick a field goal. I'm just going for it no matter what.
For it.
And then once you get in the red zone, it's 2 yards. Like I know it's tough to get a 2-point conversion, but you only need to get every other 2-point conversion to still get the exact same amount of points you would have gotten from kicking an extra point. So.
But also on our side, as far as special teams are concerned, to be able to have Turpin to flip the field, that can change a lot. So
I believe Turpin will be a lot more involved in this game than just returning. I think he's going to be more involved in that offense. A couple of maybe some jet sweeps, maybe a deep touchdown.
Let me toss this question out because I got this from my guy Vach and Skywalker when I was watching their show earlier on the volume. Who doesn't make the game day roster? So Voch doesn't think that Sam Williams is going to be out there. And then also there's a talk about Dennis Houston not being on the game day active roster. What do you guys think?
I think Dennis Houston won't be there.
Yeah, I don't think Dennis Houston will be on there.
And then what about
Sam
Williams?
the same. If it's between those two, I think Sam Williams is active and Houston's not based on the two. Because we already know that, or we don't, I shouldn't say we know. We think they're going to go 12 personnel heavy, so you could sacrifice a wide receiver. We know Dan Quinn likes to rotate his pass rushers. He likes to show different looks to get people that have fresh legs out there and on the field at the same time. So I believe given the choice, if it was those two positions, which those two positions probably are where you're going to sacrifice from, or cornerback would be another position. you're probably going to defer to taking the edge rusher over the wide receiver, especially when you consider we know CeeDee Lamb's going to get the lion's share of the targets based on what they've said. We know that we want to run the ball. We know that we want to go more 12 personnel, meaning you have less wide receivers on the field. I think Houston's kind of the no-brainer in that group.
Because it was the conversation of Golston, D-Law, Armstrong, Fowler, Basham. That's 5. Sam, 6.
But Golston kind of factors into that 3
text. That's what I was thinking too.
And that's kind of where things change too. Yeah,
right.
That's where the angle kind of changes. It's a good question though. So, chat, I'd love to hear what you guys think. Somebody said Schultz. Gregory, I don't see any way that Schultz is not active. He's probably going to be your
What about
receiver too.
Nashawn and Kelvin? Who gets the
one of those two probably is inactive. Yeah, one of those two probably is inactive. I would think Kelvin Joseph is active based on special teams play, considering Mike McCarthy.
Is he back from his concussion?
Dynamic special. Yeah, he's back. He was a full go today. He wasn't even listed as limited. So he's a dynamic special teams guy, like a CJ Goodwin. So I would think that he's going to be active. You'd have to think. Our guy TC915 gave us a list of names. Ridgeway definitely makes sense. He definitely makes sense to be an inactive, considering Neville Gallimore was actually defensive tackle 1 for the 1 techniques on the unofficial the unofficial depth chart the Cowboys released this week. And Neville Gallimore, we know, is going to play a lot. I could easily see Ridgeway not being active. Hendershot will be active because you have to go 3 tight ends. You can't go 2 tight ends for game day, especially if you're going to play 12 personnel. So Houston makes sense. Basham, I could see that happening. Ridgeway, I could see it. Kelvin Joseph, I think, will make it for the reasons I just mentioned. Nashawn Wright would be the guy I think they would elect not to have active out of those two. But the rest of the list, I don't think that's wrong. So I asked the question, the Cowboys will win if they do what? So let's flip it now. The Cowboys will lose if this happens. We'll start with Mary this time.
I mean, I hate to keep, beating a dead horse, but if we can't protect Dak, I mean, that's a huge question mark. It's a huge concern. And, if our offense can't get it together, that puts our defense in a bad position as well. So, yeah, if they can't protect Dak, then it's definite L.
Okay. What about you, Tuck?
If we're undisciplined and have penalties, so if we keep up that trend, because I feel like, especially from the offensive standpoint, every yard we get, we can't take for granted. So it's just like those holding calls that kills those big drives. We just can't have them. So I think they're going to have to play, pretty much disciplined football in order to beat Tampa. Because I don't think Tampa's as bad as a lot of people are trying to say they are. So we're going to have to play, in that top level to win this game on Sunday night.
Yeah, that's true. What about you, Spoonie?
For me, it's not be able to rattle Tom Brady out the pocket. It's not about sacks, but just making him feel uncomfortable with the amount of pressures. We've seen it in the past. He tends to get a lot rattled once you get in his face, and doesn't really locate his throws pretty well. And that's been in the past. One of his biggest weakness at 45 years old. Don't get me wrong, he's still the GOAT regardless of win or lose this game, but he has weakness. He's not the same guy anymore. So they're gonna have to get that pressure, whether it's through the interior or Michael Parsons all day long. Make him fear him. That's it.
See, it's kind of funny because a lot of the things we say on why we think we'll win, you could easily just flip that as why they would lose if that doesn't happen. But with football being a team sport, the truest team sport there is, because you depend on 3 different units to all collectively play well, because just one of those alone can sabotage your chances of winning. All 3 of those units could play fairly well, and like Tuck mentioned, they could get penalties, and that could sandbag you. You could have all 3 units play well and not have a lot of penalties and just have a costly turnover that ends it for you, or one missed kick, because football comes down to a compilation of moments, but there are certain moments that are more important than others. So really any of the answers you give us in that situation are definitely fair. In my opinion, I would probably lean towards what Spoonie said. I'm so confident in our defense showing up that if our defense is not able to get pressure on Brady, it'll be a long day. I think it'll be very difficult to win the game if you can't get to Brady. Because if you look at Brady under pressure versus any other scenario, he's the GOAT for a reason. He's an incredible quarterback. He's an easy slam dunk first ballot Hall of Famer. All the flowers and accolades that he gets are justified. But if you make his day even easier, he's just going to light you up because that's what he does. Like, you have to get pressure on him.
Mhm.
I don't need 8 sacks or even 3 sacks. I just need him to that internal time clock to get a little bit quicker, speed a little bit. I want that Vecna clock to go off in his mind the second the snap goes off, saying, "Where's Fowler? Where's Osa? Where's Micah? Where's Tank? Where's Armstrong?" Like, I want him to look for all those guys. When you hear Brady talk about Micah and you hear Todd Bowles talk about Micah, both of them made it abundantly clear that's the player on the defense, rightfully so, that they're most terrified about, most cautious and aware of. And that totally makes sense. What I want the Cowboys to be able to do is have somebody else step up, knowing that Micah's going to get that lion's share, pardon the dad pun there, of the attention from the offense. I need somebody else to take over the game from a defensive standpoint. So if we're not able to get pressure on Brady, I don't see any chance that we win the game. If we do get pressure, even an adequate amount, there's no reason we can't win the game. Not saying we will, but we should definitely be in contention right there at the end of the wire. So now that we've gotten kind of what we're excited about, what we're worried about, what we think we could win based off of, what we think we could lose based off of, the question I have for you guys now, starting with Tuck this time, is what do you expect to see this week from a game planning standpoint? What do you think we do? If you want to go offense, great. If you want to go defense, great. So we're hearing 12 personnel. We're hearing people say run the ball. Both of those are good answers, but going just a little bit deeper to that. So if we're doing 12 personnel, is that to run the ball? If we're running the ball, is that up the middle, all over the place? Like, what specifically are we doing, or do you think the Cowboys are going to do to attack the Bucs defense this year?
I think it's going to be heavily involved Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. I think that you have to get the ball into their hands. I think that Zeke's going to be involved a lot more than he was last year in the run game. And as far as Tony Pollard, it's really just getting him off the edges, getting him in quick screens, and getting the ball in his hands. And I think we're going to do it for that standpoint is to really back the pressure off. And so once they're able to back the pressure off, then it's going to create opportunities for, Dalton Schultz and also for CeeDee Lamb. So I feel like the Cowboys, and this is going to be the hard part, and we have to watch Kellen. It's like, okay, you might come out there and get a 3 and out, right? You might get stuffed by Vita Vea the first 2 run attempts, right? But you can't cave on the run game. You have to stick with it. And I feel like the Cowboys have this game plan. They have yet to reveal how they're going to get Tony Pollard involved. I feel like we're going to see Tony Pollard at least 15 touches. I think Zeke around 15 touches as well, and let them do what they do best. So,
no, I love that. Okay, Mary, what about you? What do you expect to see from a game planning standpoint, and why do you think that's the reason?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's going to be a lot of the quick passes on the outside to protect our O-line because, it's a rookie on the left and, all of that. So I think it's going to be a lot of quick passes to the outside. I think they're going to try to get both the running backs involved very quickly in the beginning. I think there's going to be a lot of 12 personnel, definitely. And also, I mean, like that opens up or usually opens up the passing game. Then we can attack, one of their biggest weaknesses, which is their defensive backs. So I definitely think a lot of quick stuff to get the running backs involved early and put the pressure on the Bucs to keep up.
Okay. So 12 personnel, quick passes to speed up the game, take a little bit of the pressure off of Tyler Smith, tracking that. Spoonie, what about you? What do you expect to see? How are you attacking the Bucs defense?
Well, what Tuck said about running the ball with Zeke, up the middle and Pollard and setting the edge, that's a great point, which I think will definitely go into the play action. If you're trying to get CeeDee Lamb the ball, I can see CeeDee Lamb coming out with at least 12 or more targets this game, in my opinion. So the play action pass to CeeDee Lamb once this defense is it seemed to run so much between Dak and between Pollard and Zeke. This is where CeeDee Lamb can just definitely groom in space. And I do see a couple of plays with Cavante Turpin going out deep. I really, really do. The man didn't sign a 3-year deal just to play, just to be a returner.
All right, I need Kellen to hear this. You want to see Cavante Turpin deep, right? You don't want to see him come in the game and immediately get a jet sweep. You don't want to see him come in the game and immediately get a wide receiver screen.
Yeah.
You want to actually let him run the route tree to set things up.
Key words. Kellen Moore did say in his last interview during the press conference a couple of days ago, he did say Cavante Turpin is a wide receiver. He said that very clearly. He's a wide receiver. So I'm hoping he sticks by it.
Yeah. And Stephen White has a comment right here that kind of gets my brain, the gears in my brain turning a little bit when I see this, because he says you want to get CeeDee Lamb in the game early. Get him the ball. We need him in his head in the game. So in my mind, the second part of it I don't think is quite as big of a factor personally, because I don't think CeeDee Lamb is that guy that gets frustrated and becomes disenchanted as the game goes along. Think more along the lines of like Dez. Dez got being such an emotional player and that like spark plug that like the whole team rallied around. He also could get frustrated when he didn't get the ball soon enough and would kind of get distracted and start battling the defensive back a little bit more. I don't think CeeDee Lamb's really that type of guy. I don't know that he necessarily needs the ball early, but I definitely think the team needs to get him involved early, because when we say he's our number one, he's our guy we're going to target, we need the defense to respect that. It doesn't need to just be lip service. We need the defensive coordinator and the defensive backs and linebackers to be like, just like we're doing on the defensive side of the ball, where we want Brady and the whole offense to be like, where's Micah? Where's Micah? Where's Micah? We don't need CeeDee Lamb to get 16 targets a game, but we need the defense to be terrified that he will get 16 targets a game. Because once that happens and the linebackers are like, let me just cheat over a couple steps just because I don't want to get beaten, or that safety's like, let me just hang for an extra second before I jump up to stop the run just in case CD takes off. That's what you need. You just need that fear factor, because once you have that, suddenly everything from an offensive standpoint is much easier. Go ahead, Tuck.
I feel like what Steve said, I think that, he needs to set the tone, right? And I feel like the fan base is going to need it in that stadium, because we lost, and I keep saying this, we lost the Coop chant. Like, that's going to mean a lot, like that will always use the Ignite AT&T Stadium. So I think that they just need to set the tone and let people know, like you said, that CD season is officially here, and he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. If he's sitting back and he's got one target and we're sitting at halftime, like, he has one catch for 5 yards, that's not good enough. Like, he needs to come out and establish he's going to be a threat. And then once you have that, it's going to open up everything underneath with Pollard, Turpin, Zeke, and the list goes on and on.
Right. Yeah. And that's one of the things too, CD setting the tone, why it's so important. I got Robert Roberts. CD new chant.
It doesn't hit the same, man. Does it?
It doesn't. But let's come up with something.
Yeah.
But the reason CD setting the tone early is such an important factor is if we're going to do more 12 personnel, the numbers on 12 personnel, and the reason you hear people talk about that so much is when you run 11 personnel. So that's one running back, one tight end. You have 3 wide receivers on the field. NFL offenses in general ran that 62% of the time last year. So 11 personnel is the most utilized personnel grouping. That's not a formation. That's a grouping of personnel on the field. But that's the most utilized personnel grouping in the league. When teams are in 11 personnel, the defense is only in their base formation 2.4% of the snaps. Base defense is only out there in the most commonly used offensive personnel grouping less than 3% of the time. When you go 12 personnel, though, and you add that extra tight end in the equation, you have a bigger unit in terms of size on the field. So defenses counter that and they go more base. So last year, Football Outsiders tracked league-wide teams were in base formation against 12 personnel about 49% of the time. We'll just call it 50% of the time. So when you do that, there's an extra linebacker on the field. That's scarier for a defense if you have a Devontae Adams or if you have a Tyreek Hill or if you have a CeeDee Lamb or what we're hoping CeeDee Lamb is going to be this year, because now suddenly there's a really good chance if this offensive coordinator is smart, one of my linebackers or safeties is going to get stuck in coverage against CeeDee Lamb. When you're in 11 personnel, that's not really a big concern because you're like, I have a corner, I have a nickel, I have 2 safeties out there. Either way, I have enough secondary pieces that are athletic enough to keep up with him. Now I have to worry about if they run a slant, if they run a drag, if they run a dig route or anything like that. I now have a linebacker on CeeDee Lamb and I'm screwed.
Right.
If you don't set the tone early and you just let them know, hey, if you cover him, we're just going to check down to Zeke and we're just going to check down to our safety valve and Schultz all game long. Now suddenly that 12 personnel making you play base doesn't scare you. Right. That's what you want, though. You want the defense to say, what do we do? Because if I go base against their 12, they're going to throw the ball all over me. And if I go nickel against their 12, they now have the size advantage and they're going to bully ball me and run the ball all over me. It's a double-edged sword, a catch-22 that you don't get if you don't get CeeDee Lamb.
Been doing it for weeks on Madden, Spoon.
I see.
So TC915 is saying you were such. I think he's trying to say nerd, bro. But yeah, I am. That's why I'm Professor O, because I'm into these type of things. But think about what I'm saying though from a strategic standpoint, because people tell you all the time, 12 personnel. That was just what happens to the linebackers and secondary. Think about this from a defensive end standpoint. If you're in 11 personnel and I have a one-on-one with my defensive end versus Tyler Smith, now suddenly my defensive end has a lot of room to work with. I can line up as a wide 9 and already be lined up way outside, forcing you, like our guy Forrest was saying, to immediately take big, quick steps back so that I don't run around you. Or I can set you up and cut back inside. But if there's a tight end next to you, even if the tight end doesn't chip me, I have to worry that the tight end might chip me. And I have to worry that the tight end may not be releasing. So now I can't immediately take a wide angle outside because I'm jumping right into a double team if I do that. So now I have to alter the way that I approach the game, and it shortens the field for the defensive line. Just the same that Forrest talked about with your tackle moving into a guard, it condenses things. It's the exact same thing for the defensive end when you're in 12 personnel, because suddenly they can't take that wide release because of the fear that the tight end might chip them or the tight end may actually be staying back to block. So it alters what they do too. So suddenly you're impacting defensive ends, the linebackers, and the secondary, all based on who you have out on the field. And that's not even worrying about your play calling. It's just from a personnel standpoint. So your chess move just suddenly changed everything that they do from a strategy standpoint. And keep in mind, like we mentioned the numbers, teams are playing base defense less than 20% of the time league-wide in general, despite what personnel grouping are out there. But when it's 11, it's only 3% of the time. So nickel is the true base defense of the league. Now I'm making you play something you don't play all the time. It's in my advantage.
And you really don't have the depth to play it. And you really don't have the depth to play it. So, yeah.
Right.
We shall see, Kellen. Come on, Kellen. Like you said, Kellen's good for 2 games. He's that's all I got. After that Bengals game, he's gonna be like, man, I ran everything. So
right. So question for you guys now. We're gonna wrap things up soon. It's been an hour and 17 minutes. It's been really good dialogue. Really appreciate Forrest jumping in earlier. But I wanted to ask you guys, who is the player of the game? Chat, please let me know who you guys think the player of the game is gonna be. And we're going to start with Spoonie this time. Spoonie, who is the player of the game for the Cowboys this week?
Osa Odugiwuza.
Osa who?
Osa.
Odigizua.
Odigizua, yeah. Get jiggy with it. Yeah, I got him the player of the game. I think he's going to take advantage of the interior not being healthy and really disrupt Tom Brady, in my opinion.
Okay. So why is he the player of the game? Is he getting a sack, a lot of pressures? What is he?
I got 3 sacks.
3 Spoonie. Let's go. Okay.
I'm ready.
Spoonie's like, let me forget CeeDee Lamb. Let me set the tone. I'm gonna go bold.
3 sacks.
First prediction. All right, cool. Tuck, who's your player of the game?
I got Dak Prescott. I feel like Dak Prescott's going to command this team to a victory. He's going to be efficient, and I feel like we're going to see Dak use them legs. I just feel like, because we kind of saw at the end of the season last year, right? When things really got tight, Dak didn't hesitate to take off. So I feel like in the red zone, we might see that read option when Dak's going to pull it. So I'm expecting Dak Prescott to be the player of the game. I feel like he has to be.
And the Cowboys have a weekly release that they do to the media on everything, literally everything you could think of from like a statistical standpoint. I didn't realize this, but Dak apparently has thrown over 400 yards week 1, 3 of the last 4 years.
Mhm.
So you very well could be right there. Okay, cool. So Mary, who is your player of the game this week?
Yeah, I was gonna say Dak, but I'll change it up. I think it has to be Michael Parsons because
Perfect
I
timing.
mean
Aisha,
he's
right there, same time.
Yeah, I mean he's had a great camp, and he's on another level now. Like last season it was his first game as a rookie. Now he's his brain is thinking faster. He understands more, and obviously they're gonna try their best to limit his impact, but I think it's going to be him.
Okay, so before I give you my answer, we're just going to go through the chat really quick. So Robert Roberts says Micah Parsons with 4 sacks and an interception, so he gets his first career interception against the GOAT. So, what's better to hunt a GOAT than a lion, right? Especially a young, hungry lion. So I would love to see that. Todd Corey says, how about Gallimore? TC915 went the Spoonie route with the Odigi Woosa, which I like. Our girl Aisha over at the mothership says, hard not to say Micah seems locked in on a different level right now, or another level right now. We have Stephen White with 125 yards and 3 TDs for Zeke. So Zeke sets the tone, saying, CD, it's cool that you're wide receiver 1, but I'm the straw that stirs the drink, right?
Can you imagine that? Ooh,
yeah,
man.
I would love to see
Zeke
that.
goes crazy. I would love it.
Honestly, if we beat Tampa and Zeke runs for 125 yards and 3 TDs, the whole league's on notice. Think about that. Like, that's a defense you don't expect to run on. If you do that, you beat Brady and you rush all over him.
Charge inflation on those hats, man.
Oh my God, those hats be like $85 a hat now. Yeah. TC915 has Micah MFN Parsons. Joseph Sandberg with Tank. So we got a different answer there. 1.5 sacks, a PD, and I think he means an interception maybe. Oh, there he goes. Interception. Cool. So then we have TC915 jumping back on his Micah Parsons with 4 sacks. He says, Spoonie, 4 sacks. Forget what Odigizoo was doing. 4 sacks, 4 fumble, and an interception. Okay. So, and then Gregory, there's a lot of good answers. I'm not going to go through all of them, but our guy, Gregory, says Diggs with 2 picks. I'm also going with the defensive back, but I'm going a different route. I'm going to go with Malik Hooker. I feel like Malik Hooker is at a quiet offseason. I think it was intentional. I think the media is purposely not putting it out there. We're kind of holding that card in the back. He's a whole 1.5+ years removed from his Achilles injury. Later in the year last year, you could see as the season progressed, he was getting more and more acclimated to the scheme, feeling more and more comfortable. You started seeing him late in the year against Washington. That range is back. I believe with the pass rush, with the Odigizua getting 3 sacks, with the 4 sacks from Parsons, and all the other stuff that we're hearing, and the attention that Diggs is going to get. And keep in mind, they're going to still throw the ball at Diggs. Diggs led the league in yardage allowed last year. I don't care about that because of the interceptions, but teams will still target him because that's what they do. Jalen Ramsey was targeted and gave up like 800+ yards receiving last year too. So you're still going to get the ball thrown your way no matter what. Mm-hmm. I just believe Malik Hooker is a smarter, more aware, better version of what KZ is. And I'm not saying that as a diss to him. It's just true from a talent standpoint. Hooker's a better player. So I'm going to go with Malik Hooker. I don't know if that means he's going to have 10 tackles and an interception or a big pass breakup or what that is. Camber on the Due Diligence show earlier this week, which was our first show that we had on our midday show, picked Malik Hooker to seal the game with the interception. I'm going to co-sign that. I feel like Malik Hooker is going to make a big impact play. So I'm going to go with him. So that's my player of the game. All right, cool. So we are 1 hour and 23 minutes in. It's time for score predictions. So chat, let us know right now who wins, what the score total is, and we're going to go with the lady, the queen, the royalty, Star Gang Beauty, Mariella. Who wins this week? What is the score going to be?
I got the Cowboys taking it. Final score, I hate doing scores, but I'm thinking 24-33 Cowboys.
24-33 Cowboys. Okay.
Love it.
Tuck.
I got the Cowboys winning, and I have them winning 31-27, and Brett Maher is the savior in the fourth quarter.
Let's go, Maher.
Ooh.
If Brett Maher is the savior, I don't know what the giveaway is. We're going to do a giveaway next week. Don't know what it is. Actually, I do know what it is because I don't know if CFO has launched it yet, but he has new merch coming. It's
the
fire.
store is open.
He has a lot of new shirts out there. If Maher is the savior or even has a big game, we're going to give away some CFO merch.
Let's do it.
Cool.
Nice.
We'll make that happen. Maher.
I'm gonna drop a Maher
Shout out
shirt.
to Yeah. You should definitely Photoshop his head with the Wakanda Forever pose. So Spoonie, what's the score going to be?
Oh, 42-21 Dallas.
What?
42-21 Dallas. Okay. It's kind of hard to top that one. I thought I was going to be bold. My score prediction is actually exactly what my guy TC915 has. I'm going 31-17. I believe I'm all in. Maybe it's early. Maybe the Kool-Aid was just freshly mixed. I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like Micah's going to be ready. Dak's going to be ready. Zeke's healthy. I just feel like it's going to happen. Like, all great things have to eventually come to an end. Brady, you're retired. You probably should have stayed retired because now you got Micah after you. Now you have Tank after you. Now you have Malik Hooker back there. Now you have Diggs. Like, I feel like our defense is going to do whatever it takes to win the game. And like our guy Tuck said, Maher, player of the game out there. So I'm going to go 31-17. And again, some of these predictions we're given that I thought were bold really aren't. Stephen White with the realistic 27-14. Daryl Schapp, King of Passion, 47-24 Cowboys.
Ooh, man.
Love it, Daryl. Love it.
Ooh, the
Absolute
Cowboys.
blowout.
Ooh, Twitter gonna hate me if that
Yeah, they
happens.
don't hate me. I'm hella blocked on.
Michael Richardson, 31-24. So close game there. Armchair champion with the 31-27. So that's a nail biter there. We got Stephen White, 17. We all agree on that. That's okay, cool. So we're all feeling pretty good about the game. We have everybody predicting we're going to win. So, we'll just have to see what's going to happen. The table has been set. We know who's healthy. We know who's going to be out there. We know what we have from an offensive line standpoint this week. We know how Dak is. We heard all the media takes. We've heard Jerry Jones talking about Dak. We've heard Jerry Jones talk about Zeke. We've heard Mike McCarthy talk about him, all of that. It's time to play. We had a whole offseason of conversations, and it's now where you put the pencils down and it's in ink. We do these schedule predictions ahead of time. We do all the conversations you can have on who you should draft, who you should sign in for agency, what moves they should make. All that's done. We're here now. We're 4 days out, less than that now, and it's go time. So Cowboys Nation, I really appreciate you guys rocking with us. It's been an hour and 27 minutes. Our guy Nix is back, luckily, later this week because I'm done with this hosting thing. It's not for me. I love just being the co-pilot. Appreciate that. I like being the co-pilot out here. So real quick before we end it, Tuck, Spoonie, Mary, let them know where they can find you. We'll start with Spoonie.
You can find me at Spoonie881 on Twitter, and you can find me right here home maybe Wednesdays and occasionally on Fridays on Pick Six Sports. And I want to remind everybody this. The movie called The Beast with Idris Elba, and you got the line, that's going to be something similar to what we're going to see Sunday night. Again, they told Tom Brady to stay out the jungle. He refused to listen. The line will be around lurking.
There we go.
I like it. Mary, go ahead. Where can they find you at?
On Twitter at Stargame Beauty. Here with you guys every week, live 8 p.m. or 8:30. And this Sunday at AT&T Stadium.
What lot can they find you at? Where are you guys going to be at?
Lot 10.
Lot 10. If you guys have ever watched our show, you should know by now, Lot 10 is the place to be at. If you've never been to the stadium, Lot 10 is parallel to Walmart. It's right next to it. Across the street, you have a Jack in the Box. There's a
gas station.
There's some gas station. I forget what it is. It's right there on the corner. There's a sign that says...
There's a huge sign that says, "This is our house." We're right up under there.
Yeah, it's super easy to
find. All
find.
the crazy people. All the crazy us. That's it. We all crazy.
It's super easy to find. If you're looking at the very front of the stadium, It's just slightly to the left of that. That's where lot 10 is. It's right there on that road. I don't remember what the road's called, but you can't miss it. It's super easy.
It's Collins. I think it's Collins.
Collins,
Yeah,
that sounds right.
so-
That sounds right. So lot 10 is where you can find our girl Mariella. Tuck, are you going to be there this week?
I'll be there.
You can find Mariella. You can find Tuck. I think you can find Nix. I'm
Nix will
pretty
be
sure
there.
he's going to be.
Yeah.
Pretty sure he's going to be there.
Yeah.
Cool. So
He'll
Tuck,
be
let
there.
them know where they can find you. Mention it a few times on the show. Let them know what your YouTube channel is and where they can find your merch at.
Yeah, you can find me on all social media platforms at jtuck151, and then my YouTube channel is CFO Sports, and then we just launched the merch store is cfosportstalk.com. So I appreciate all the support, man. Y'all know y'all family. Cowboys Nation, it's time to rise. No more time for the conversation. Like I said, I ain't doing no back and forth. It's just strictly business.
Right.
Once I get to Dallas, man, it's go time, and it's time to rally and get ready for our team. So whether you at the stadium or you at home, rally up, ride or die. Let's get it.
Tuck said Cowboys Nation. Let's ride.
Yeah. Let's
We
ride.
went more Russell. So
Let's
real
ride.
quick to the people that are still in the chat, I'm just gonna go ahead and let you know we are gonna do our normal Friday show. Probably gonna do a Twitter space on Sunday. Definitely gonna do something for the game. I don't know if we'll stream live or afterwards or something. We'll do something Sunday. Next Wednesday, which is crazy. We're already talking about week 2 of the season. Next Wednesday, we have an absolute fire guest lined up for you. And I'm going to go ahead. I was thinking about just keeping it to the vest, but I'm just going to go ahead and let you know because talked to him earlier today, got it locked in. There's a YouTuber named Flimlow Raps. If you've ever watched a YouTube series on NFL players called Whatever Happened to Insert Name, he's done that. This guy has 869,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's literally more than the Dallas Cowboys Twitter page by 4. Think of our YouTube page by 4, like almost 1 million subscribers. That's how many videos he's had. If you are an NCAA video game player and you've ever watched a YouTube video on NCAA, probably watched him. If you're a Last Chance U fan and you've ever typed in anything with Last Chance U on YouTube, you probably found him. He's a diehard Bengals fan, and his dad was a diehard Cowboys fan, or is a diehard Cowboys fan. So he's grown up around Cowboys football, but being a Bengals fan has a different perspective of it. So reached out to him, sent him a DM a couple months ago just to kind of line it up, saying, I'm trying to coordinate things through the season, getting some guests on. We've had a lot of great guests in the offseason. We want to keep that going each week, as you saw with Forrest Conoly, ESPN analyst, on the show tonight. Want to make sure we deliver as much as we can. Already got some other stuff in the fire, but Flimlow Raps, absolute fire YouTube channel. Check him out. He's done several videos on Marion Barber, several videos on a lot of Cowboys players, several videos out there on guys that were like a 5-star, can't miss high school player, considered the next great thing that flamed out. Like he has a whole series of that. Tons of videos with well over 1 million views. Really cool dude. So really excited to have him on. Tuck, if you're available next Wednesday night, love to have you on too, because I'm sure you guys are gonna get along. Really cool guy, and maybe we can talk in the back end. Maybe we can get it dual streamed on your show too. But yeah, that's next Wednesday, and then we have guests lined up basically all season already to go. So really appreciate you rocking with us. Hope you guys have a great evening. You can find me on Twitter at @ProfessorO_NFL. Also with USA Today Cowboys Wire, and then this Friday here at Pick 6 Sports. So I hope you guys have a great evening, and go Cowboys.
And I do have big guy sizes for all y'all quadruple 5Xs in the chat.
Yes. Nice. So again, go Cowboys. Hope you guys have a great evening. We'll see you guys Friday.